If you've been waiting for Apple to stop talking around AI and actually show what it looks like inside a real product, this is the release that finally makes the story feel concrete. The biggest thing Apple has done at WWDC 2026 is not just announce iOS 27 or roll out a new Siri logo. It is that the iPhone, the Mac, the iPad, and the rest of the lineup now have a clearer product identity. Siri is more central, the apps around it are more useful, and for the first time in a while, Apple's software story feels like something you can picture using every single day instead of just something that sounds only good on stage. So rather than treating this as a generic WWDC recap, let's break it down the way it actually matters, product by product, starting with the platform that got the heaviest lift by far, the iOS 27. The easiest way to understand the update is that Siri is no longer tucked away behind the side button, a wake word, or a tiny floating glow. Apple has built a new search or act flow right into the center swipe gesture, and it runs through the dynamic island. A glowing pill now shows Siri processing a request, and the answer expands into a transparent card with links, images, notes, and web information. Swipe further and it turns into a conversation view that looks much closer to a modern chat thread than the old Siri overlay. Apple has also folded Ask Siri buttons into app menus, so users can send content directly into Siri without bouncing in and out of apps. Even the surrounding gestures change with it. Notifications slide in from the left, Control Center stays on the right, and the center of the screen becomes a much more obvious entry point into Apple's assistant. The second big iOS 27 change is that Siri now feels like its own product. Apple has given it a standalone app that looks much closer to ChatGPT, Claude, or Gemini than the older Siri interface ever did. There is an Ask Siri bar at the bottom, support for both text and voice conversations, a paperclip for attaching files like images and PDFs, and a conversation history view that can be shown as card summaries or as a list. Apple has also gone hard on privacy here. Siri chats can be auto-deleted after 30 days or a year, or kept permanently. Apple is still leaning on on-device processing and private cloud compute to separate its AI story from more cloud-heavy rivals. At the same time, Siri is more open than before. Apple now lets users plug viral chatbot services into Siri through extensions, third-party AI defaults for things like writing tools or image playground, or even choose different voices for those outside AI responses. Underneath all of that sits the biggest architecture shift of the whole release. Gemini is now the foundation powering the revamped Siri and Apple's broader intelligence stack. Now, here is where iOS 27 stops sounding like AI messaging and starts sounding useful. Apple has moved visual intelligence out of the camera control shortcut and into the camera app itself. There is now a Siri mode sitting right next to photo, video, portrait, and panorama. And that matters because it makes the feature visible. Once you're in that mode, the phone can identify objects, plants, animals, art, books, and more. But the biggest shift is that Siri can now answer questions about what the camera is looking at instead of just labeling it. Apple has layered practical tools into that camera experience too. Nutrition scanning can read food labels for calorie and macronutrient tracking through health. Contact scanning can pull phone numbers and addresses off business cards or printed text straight into contacts. The camera app itself is more customizable as well, with widget-like controls for flash, exposure, timer, resolution, and other tools that can be rearranged at the top of the interface. Apple is also adding new grid and level options, which makes the whole camera story feel less like a gimmick and more like a mix of AI utility and actual photography improvements. The rest of iOS 27 is packed with app-level changes. Photos now leans much more heavily into Apple Intelligence, especially through new Extend and Reframe tools. Extend can generate more image content beyond the original frame when you zoom out or recrop. Reframe can change perspective on spatial images after the shot has already been captured. Apple is also pushing towards natural language photo editing. So instead of manually wrestling each slider, users can ask for a cleaner background, different crop, or color change in plain English. Shortcuts gets one of the smartest upgrades in the whole release. Users can describe a multi-step automation and Siri builds it for them. Wallet adds create a pass, so physical tickets, gym cards, or passes can become digital wallet items, and Apple Cash can now split a bill from a photo of a receipt. Image Playground is getting a cleaner interface with a describe a change editing flow, while Genmoji is becoming lighter on battery and better at surfacing suggested emoji ideas based on what you type and what is in your media library. Writing tools goes further too, with Siri option, a help me write action, and an AI grammar checker that shows revisions next to the original text instead of silently rewriting everything. Add in AI wallpaper generation, a new weather conditions panel, AI-aware calendar improvements, and simpler airport settings, and iOS 27 starts to look like the most loaded product in the entire lineup. And there is still a deeper layer to iOS 27 beyond the obvious app features. System-wide, Apple is cleaning up pieces of the liquid glass interface rather than blowing it up again. Search is being recombined with the main tab bar in apps like music, podcast, and TV. The keyboard now has a sliding animation from the bottom of the screen. There are redo and undo controls for home screen layout changes, and Apple appears to be expanding liquid glass opacity controls beyond just the lock screen clock, so users can tune the look of the interface more precisely. Accessibility also gets a serious push. VoiceOver now gets richer image descriptions, Magnifier gets AI-powered visual descriptions, voice control becomes more controversial, Accessibility Radar handles more complex documents, and generated subtitles uses on-device speech recognition across iPhone, iPad, Mac, Apple TV, and Vision Pro. Then there is the quality story. Bloomberg had described iOS 27 like a snow leopard type update, and that fits. Apple is cleaning code, chasing efficiency, and aiming for better battery life. The Mac story is bigger than it first sounds. macOS is not just getting the iPhone's new Siri pasted onto a desktop. Apple is bringing over the same chatbot-style assistant with personal context, better cross-app behavior, a standalone Siri app on the Mac as well. But the interesting part is how many other tools move with it. Mac users also get the photos reframing and extending tools, natural language shortcuts creation, stronger grammar checking in writing tools, and upgraded image playground and Genmoji models. Safari goes a step further with AI-based grouping for related tabs, which could be one of those small changes that becomes surprisingly sticky if you live in a messy browser all day. Visually, macOS 27 is also supposed to smooth out some of the complaints around liquid glass, especially around shadows and transparency. And iPadOS 27 is less about iPad-only reinvention and more about inheritance. But that still matters. Apple is carrying over the new Siri capabilities, the search your apps flow, the Siri extension system, the updated writing tools, the photos editing upgrades, and the natural language automation story from iOS 27. On paper, that can sound like the iPad is just along for the ride. But in practice, a lot of these tools arguably make more sense on a larger screen. A standalone Siri app, a richer chat history, file attachments, visual editing, and plain language shortcuts all fit naturally on an iPad that people use for work, school, and light creative tasks. Apple has not split iPadOS 27 into some separate headline platform this time, but the upside is that the iPad gets most of the strongest parts of the iPhone update without needing its own dramatic rebrand. watchOS 27 is a much lighter release, but there is still a clear identity to it. The most concrete addition is the new watch face direction, including a variant of the modular Ultra face with a large time readout and 3 complications that is supposed to be available across the wider Apple Watch range, not just one premium model. Beyond that, this is a refinement release. Some of Siri's newer behavior can spill over to the watch, and some of the AI writing or dictation improvements may matter in small ways when you're applying from your wrist. But the honest reading is that watchOS 27 is not trying to compete with iOS 27 for attention. It is giving Apple Watch users a cleaner, slightly smarter daily experience without pretending that the watch is the center of Apple's AI push. tvOS 27 are smaller stories, but they are not empty ones. tvOS 27 still looks like Apple TV software rather than some dramatic living room reboot. Yet, there are clear signs of smarter recommendations, a more capable Siri for media requests, and closer ties to Apple's smart home plans. There is also at least one very practical accessibility feature in the mix: larger text. Vision OS 27, on the other hand, appears light on brand new flagship features, but it stands to inherit a lot of the same Apple Intelligence and Siri improvements that are spreading across the rest of the lineup. Even something like generated subtitles matters more in Vision Pro than it might in a normal press release bullet points. So these platforms are not headliners, but they do benefit from the same cross-platform AI and accessibility push that is reshaping the iPhone and Mac. Now, if you zoom all the way out, the clearest thing Apple launched at WWDC 2026 was not one single app, not one single animation, and definitely not one surprise hardware box. It launched a more coherent software lineup. iOS 27 carries the weight with the new Siri, Search Your Apps, Camera Intelligence, Photos tools, shortcuts, wallets, and writing tools. macOS 27 brings that same intelligence story to the desktop. iPadOS 27 inherits the strongest parts of the iPhone updates. watchOS 27, tvOS 27, and Vision OS 27 fill out the ecosystem with lighter but still meaningful improvements. And across all of it, Apple is clearly trying to make the software feel more stable, more private, and more useful than last year's AI messaging ever did. That is why this release still matters. The interesting question is no longer whether Apple will talk about AI. It already has. The real question is whether the new Siri and this new software stack are finally good enough to become part of people's everyday habits. Let me know which product launch matters most to you. And if you want the fastest breakdown after the next Apple event, subscribe and stay close to this channel. My name is Josh. This is Tech Mansion, where tech lives. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.